Alright, so this is a little different than Munker. This is GTO Plus. It, well, now it doesn't come with CardRunners EV, but it used to. CardRunners EV, if you've never seen it before, is this was like the original solver, right? Button raise, small line 3-bit, button calls, then it goes to the flop. You pick your flop, you pick all your things, so it's kind of like Munker, but you have to choose specific ranges, and it tells you, you know, basically what your EV is. Anyway, GTO Plus came out after card because I had bought CardRunners EV when it first came out. GTO Plus came out after that, and I was kind of like, I guess they call it like grandfathered in, where I got it for free. But now you have to pay for it anyway. It's like $70 for GTO Plus, and it's great for solving heads up. So heads up post flop. And the main reason I wanted to bring this up is because of this subsets, right? So when you pick a subset, it grabs a group of flops that represent all flops. And this is what it says on here. Different flops I do won't extensively need to include every single one. The disadvantage would be the processing a database of all flops, right? Which is, I mean, that's pretty true. These subsets are smaller sets of flops that represent a total possible number of flops as closely as possible, right? And then performance, and this is GTO Plus versus PIO. So the error rate for each subset, right? Because it's 15, 19, 23, 33, blah, 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 blah. Goes all the way up. So I picked this one specifically because it's well, this is error per hand. This is overall error. And as you can see, I picked 111, and it's actually only 108 flops. But anyway, as you can see, the error rate doesn't change all that much as you move up. So 111 is, kind of, it's close enough for what I need. Now, the reason that I'm even telling you about this, I'm not telling you to go buy GTO Plus. But when you pull these flops up, what I did was I wrote them down here. So all these flops are there, right? I've already done this I did this for a heads up range of the standard RFI for your average 2-2 player versus my calling range in position. So say, a average player opens in middle position and I'm on the button and I call. This would be my calling range, based on what the solver shows as well, which I didn't pull that up before I started the video. I should have. But anyway, what we're going to do today is show something that GTO can't do, which is multi-way solves. Right? So let's open up beta. And we're going to go make a new tree, hold'em, pre-flop. No, hold'em, flop, 3 players. And it's 300, but we're going to have 3. It's going to be a 3-way flop with the average, range versus So we're going to have two people. Well, anyway, is open to $10, right? So it's going to be $290 effective, and there's going to be, so it's going to be middle position. We're going to assume here, somewhere in the field, this is going to be me. I'm going to be the hero, or whatever. The button, we're going to call in position, and then the big blind is also going to peel. So there's going to be $32 in the pot with $290 effective. We're going to use our tutorial action config file. We're going to create an empty tree, right? Now we're going to open this up to make sure that we get the bets. And we're going to add 33%. Actually, we're not going to do 1/3 multi-way. I'm going to do 66 and 80% raises across the board. Now, we don't want this player to have a donking range because we know that this is the original raiser pre-flop. So we're going to remove this bet and everything else stays. So he's forced to check his entire range, and then he gets a chance to bet, in which case I get a chance to raise or call. If I call, big blind can also call. We can go multi-way, right? All right, now let's go to ranges. So the small blind is the overcaller. Wait, let's pull up the live range here. RFI. This range is going to be big blind. Go to there. And it won't copy paste. Just so some of you are wondering why I'm doing this manually, because if you copy this and then paste it, you get all these weird. I'll show you real quick. Copy, and then we'll go to small blind and load. See, it does this weird shit because it doesn't really understand. Alright, so we're going to assume, first let's knock all these 25%ers out of the way. So we're going to assume that big blind would squeeze with these hands right here. So we're going to remove these, and then we're going to add everything else around it. Oops. Right? Like this. This is going to be their range, and then my range is going to be somewhere actually I might flat ace queen half the time. Aces. Oops. It's going to look something like this. This is going to be my flatting range in position versus your standard, low stakes, open too many hands player. Right? That's the ranges. We can close that. Let's make sure that they didn't change, because I've had it happen before where I input the ranges and then close it, and the Monker gets like a weird thing. I don't know what this call it. Okay, now when you go to solve, instead of hitting play, right, instead of choosing a flop, you go to script. Oh, wait, I forgot. Now you have to go to save. You have to say, save it, YouTube tutorial 3-way flop. Subset, include ranges, save that tree. Now we go to solve, script, select the tree. So iterations per node, we're going to shoot for 50, and we're going to reset it, and all that means is it recalculates the ranges, right? So when it hits 40, it's going to remove it and then reload it. And because what ends up happening is some hands get like, if they start off as a raise, as more iterations happen, it might go from a raise at 100% to a raise at 75%. But when you reset it and it recalculates the entire range, it might drop to 60% for that specific hand. That's just how it works. File name, we'll name this YouTube 108 subset. Subset. Three-way folder. Make sure it's on my 2 terabyte hard drive. Save for further calculation. And then list of boards. We're going to come over here to our text file that we copied from there, which you can copy as well. You know, if you pause it, you can read all of these, or you could do it in the GTO Plus, and then that's it. And then you click start. And now, what's going to happen? Close this. Go back. Where did it? Shit, I don't remember where it saved. It wasn't there. It's here. Data. Saved runs. No. Trees. No. Shit. Here. There we go. Alright, so this is a different script that I built before I built the GTO Plus, because I just wanted to test out the scripting, right? Heads up in position versus fish RFI, right? Someone that opens way too many hands. I made that, and I just put like 6 or 7 flops in there, just some random flops. Now what you're gonna get is this. See, each one is going to have the flop solved at 50 iterations per node, which is what I set it at. And then you can open this up. So say you want to review a 3-way hand single raise pot, right? What you're going to do is come in here. You're going to go to your script folder, and then you're just going to open one of these up, and it's going to show you. So you find the flop that's closest. Like say you had a King 8-4. Well, King 8-4 is very similar to King 9-3 as far as ranges go. It's not. So King 8-4 is just as close to King 9-3. Whereas if you say King 10-4, that makes a huge difference, because that would be closer to King Jack 3. You understand? Now these flops are ones that I made. This isn't the subset. The subset for the text file. Open or subset. If you look at the thing, it tries to cover textures that hit ranges and textures that don't hit ranges, right? It has a little bit of everything in there. It's enough that you can get by, that no matter what flop you actually have, like the exact cards, you can get it pretty close. And it's just a way for you to run a bunch of sims at once. Now let's wait a minute here and see. When this hits 50, I want to see if it saves in a new folder or if it just saves in the same script folder, even though it'll be named differently. And then once it's done, it's done. Like, even if your computer shuts off, you don't have to physically click the save button. If that makes sense. We'll see here in just a second. And I believe that you should save these spots. So, like, another one would be, another common spot is open. So RFI, call, you squeeze, and end up going 4 ways to a flop. That's another one that you should run with a flop subset, and you should really study those spots. Now, I'm not saying that you need to study every flop, but you need to pick one from each, right? Like, how do you play? Ace Queen is going to be fairly easy to play. Okay, we're on to the next one, so I'll go check that folder real quick and see. No, and it just saves it right in the script folder. So you're going to have all your scripts in here, all your scripted flops. So for the multi-way, like Ace Queen, obviously, you're pretty much, even 4 ways you can range bet that flop because your squeezing range is going to be so ace heavy that most of the time that's what's going to happen. You're going to range bet. I mean, I haven't solved it. I haven't solved it, but I would assume that's what's going to happen. You're pretty much going to be betting almost everything, and you're going to be checking back hands that have, good showdown value, like kings, for instance, because you're not worried about getting counterfeited on a queen turn. So I think kings would be a check back, but you should be pretty much betting your entire range there. So a good flop would be Ace Queen 5 would be a good one for multi-way, where a lot of their range is going to be Queen X, gutters, weak aces. You need to know, and there's also 2 diamonds, so there's going to be flush draws people are going to have with like 6, 7, 7, 8 of diamonds. There's going to be 4, 5, so they're going to have bottom pair. So you really need to solve those spots and see how you need to play them when you're 4 ways to a flop in a low SPR situation. Because if it goes raise the 10, call, then you're going to make it 50, right? According to the tree that we made, you're going to make it 50, and you're going to get 3 callers. So there's going to be 200 in the pot with 250 behind. So you're going to be SPR 1.25. So it's going to be one of those spots where you're going to be you should be using a small sizing, right? Probably a third, And I would imagine that you're going to be extremely polarized in that spot where you're going to be betting the absolute top and you're going to be betting a lot of your nut drawing hands. So you're going to bet queens, aces, ace queen, ace king, probably ace jack, all your top pair nut flush draws. You're going to probably bet king jack of diamonds, jack 10 of diamonds, although jack 10 of diamonds might mix and check back sometimes to try to realize equity so you don't get jammed on. But those are the spots that you're going to run into a lot in the low, like 2-2. You're going to be playing a lot of multi-way with a lot of short SPRs, like significantly less than 2 on the flop when you put squeezes in. It happens a lot. I run into them all the time, almost every single session, multiple times a session. You know, damn near every hand that I play, unless something where it's like we're 600 effective and 600 opens, and I put in a 3-bet and we somehow end up heads up, which is not very often. Most of the time, it's at least 3 ways to the flop. Whereas when you get to 2-5, the open is to 25, 20 to 25 for an open, and then a 3-bet to somewhere between 60 and 75. It's a slightly different dynamic, and you're going to get a lot more heads up and 3-way pots. Whereas at 2-2, 1-2, you're going to have a lot more 3-way and 4-way pots in comparison. If you're playing 2-5 with the straddle, then you're definitely going to be playing a lot more heads up pots. And if that's the game that you play, then you should be studying those spots. Whatever game you're playing, you should be studying the spots that you get into the most. And that's what this is for. Because, for instance, let's open GTO Plus because this it's not that much RAM. I'll be able to open this. So this is a heads up spot. And if we go to Run Solver, let's pick Ace Queen 5. In a heads up spot, as you can see, it does quite a bit of checking out of position. But I don't expect villains to do that, right? So let's node lock what I think that they would bet. I think that they're going to bet every single ace. I think they're going to bet probably going to bet kings. If you hit F9, it locks. You see how when I go around it goes to each one? You go on a hand and you hit F9 and then it locks it so that you can go over and select. I think they're going to bet all their king X with diamonds. Actually, I think it might be the opposite. They might bet all their kings without diamonds and check with king jack. So I think they're going to bet all of his gutters with flush draws. Sets, obviously. And he's going to bet all of his flush draws. Let's see. Flush draws. Oh, we can't lock flush draws. Oh, we can. So I think he bets all his flush draws. And then we'll unlock. And now when we go here, we should see betting with all flush draws. Bottom pairs, I don't think so. Should check those. I don't think he's going to bet bottom pair. Unlock it. Bet all the flush draws. Make sure I got them all. Yep. Now, as you can see, it went from checking like 70% to 50%, and now let's run it. Because as you can see, I changed it. So now it needs to be resolved. So then let's solve it again and see how we play. Let's see what our raising range is on this flop when I put in what I think my opponent will do. What the fuck is that? Wrong flop. So then when he bets, we're going to do a lot of folding. We're folding most of our range. And we are raising. We don't raise any of our nut flush draws. That's interesting. I mean, we do raise some. But I find it interesting that we don't raise ace jack of diamonds. I guess because we block, the jack of diamonds blocks a chunk of his range. So our raising range is mostly Queen X of spades, King X of diamonds, sets, bottom pair, which I find kind of interesting that it chooses, I guess because it doesn't raise air, so it chooses bottom pair, sort of as a, I guess because it blocks bottom set and has some backdoor. It doesn't really have backdoor equity though. Oh, I guess it does because of the wheel. That's why. Because they could run out 3-2. Whereas 5-6, as you look, 5-4, let's lock it. As you can see, it's showing 48% raise, 26% call, whereas 6-5 is 8% raise, 90% fold, unless you have a backdoor, obviously, and you're raising 55-44 call. And so you're basically never folding. You're never folding bottom pair backdoor flush draw. This one you're raising because of the backdoor equity to make a wheel, as well as a lot of your two pairs are probably going to be good. let's assume that a four of, we'll say the four of clubs comes on the turn. So we're going to go raise, he's going to call, and we're going to go four of clubs. Checks. And when we make our two pair, so we're mostly betting. Okay, so we're betting 50. Well, we're betting 62% and checking back 38%. Let's change this to the four of spades and put two flush draws out there. See if that changes. It does. Which I assume is because you can't boat on a flush. So like your opponent can't hit a flush and you hit a boat at the same time. So it reduces the amount there. So he bets. Let's see. It's interesting that we fold all of our pairs but sets. I guess because this range is so ace heavy. Let's go look at a high, low, low. High, low, low board when he bets. Yeah, see, high, low, low. We're going to float a lot more. Well, that's interesting that we flat sixes and fours. I guess because it's rainbow, we don't really have too many turns that are going to cause us trouble. We pretty much never raise this flop. And the reason for that is because I think that villain... See, this is another one where people are checking. The solver is showing check, but that's just not going to happen very often. I think that people are going to bet all of this shit. And they're definitely going to be betting this as well. Well, maybe not. They might not bet these. They might check those. But it's definitely going to be betting ace-x. So now we'll run that board with the lock. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically showing you this is my process of learning. This is how I explore situations, right? I go through and I say, this is what the solver shows that should be done. And I say, well, that's not how the opponents that I play against, that's not how they play, right? And then I lock to what I think they play at, or what I think they would do, and then I see how a solver attacks that range, right? Like, how does it defend a value-heavy betting range versus a balanced betting range? So then we'll wait for this to be done. Okay, and we'll go here. He bets. Wait, wrong board. Where is it? A6-4. He bets. And so we're going to be mostly folding because that's how you take advantage of a value heavy betting range, right? Like ace-x. Ace-6-4, we're just going to be mostly calling down, is what I assume. So let's say we call, and the turn is, we'll just leave deuce of hearts. He bets again, and then the river is, let's say, another deuce, and he bets again. So we're calling down with ace queen. So the board is ace-6-4 deuce deuce, full rainbow. So we're going to call down with most of our ace-x. So ace queen, ace jack suited. It's interesting that we chose 6-5 to raise. I guess because we need to balance our boats with bluffs. Oh, we chose ace. It chooses ace-8 of clubs. I wonder why it chooses that specific hand. Ace-8 of clubs, ace-9 of diamonds. So we're going to have 6 is full, 4 is full. That's crazy that it flats 4s. I guess because it needs to defend. So it needs to have a balanced call range, right? So if you only call with ace-x, then because the villain can have all the boats, he can have all the boats, he can have, well, does he have quads? No, he checks deuces. So when he triple barrels, no, back call, back call, back call. So we need to have some boats in our flatting range to protect it. But I don't think that's necessary. Because he's not going to have any straights on the turn. And honestly, neither are we on a deuce. So what I'm curious about is why we're not raising 4s on the turn and 6s. Because if we raise, what does it show him folding? So he folds his weak ace-x. His bluffs, his gutters. But I just don't think they're going to fold those hands often enough. Bet 16, we call. He bets 37, we make it 123. I think he's just going to call way wider than this. I think he's going to call with all of his ace-x and peel to a river. And then on the river, we're going to have to make a decision for sizing because I think he's going to check 100% of the time. And we're going to have to go for value. And what's interesting is the solver chooses to shove 60, check 40. What are we shoving? Ace 6, 7 6. That's a strange shove. I guess it needs to mix in some bluffs. I noticed that Solver never mixes. It never bluffs with without a pair, right? Like it never turns ace high into a bluff. Like as you can see, I mean ace high is obviously a pair, but say king high, it never has high card on the river. It never takes like a nut high card. Like on this board, king queen would be the nut high card. It never turns that hand into a bluff. It's either called check back or folded on previous streets. I wonder how that works on, let's say, king 8 7. How do we play our ace highs? Bet call, bet call, and check. It does have some ace highs, and we just check them down. Wow. Call 2 streets with ace queen. That's actually super interesting. Call 40% of the time. And then when he bets again, we fold. Oh, okay. So it's a very small percentage. It's only 3%. 3% of the time we call. So we're mostly folding our ace highs. Now, what if he checks? We always check our ace highs. And then on the river, if he checks again, we just take the showdown with ace high. I think that's pretty standard. And if he bets, we fold our ace highs and we occasionally so 7% of the time we turn it into a bluff. And we raise top pair as well. That's pretty interesting. And I think it's because of sevens. I can't believe we check back sevens. Here. Oh, well, it's a very small percentage. Small percent of the time we check back sevens. Okay, and then it has to balance those. All right. Yeah, well, I just wanted to take you through sort of my thought process, learning process. Let's save this. I think what I did there was some of those locks that I put in are worth saving. Yeah. So this has quite a ways to go. We're on ace queen 5, which is right here. So we have quite a bit to go. It'll probably be, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours before it's done. I'll be playing by then. I plan on going pretty soon. Go catch the overnight guys that stayed all night. Go catch up with them. See if I can get in some pots early this morning. Yeah. Anyway, that's how to use the scripting feature and what it's used for. If you want, where's the? I guess I could open that. Let me open GTO Plus real quick, and we'll just make a new file. put a range real quick. Random build tree. Oops. This is just, you know, if you want me to do a how to use GTO Plus, you can just leave a comment and I'll make a video for it. If you want these boards, you can pause the video. So I'll give you a second there. And let me scroll down to King Queen 4. So this was the end of the first one. Queen 10-3. Where is it? Queen 10-3. And then that's it. That's all the flops for you. If you want to copy those, or if you want to just pause, you can copy it right from here. Yeah, that's it, man. Guess I'll catch you on the next one. Hope this helps.